This is the human heart. Central to our physical body, our survival, revered by poets throughout history as the emotional center of our being. The place we instinctively touch when asked to point to ourselves. And now, what we have known intuitively is being understood scientifically. Researchers are unlocking a new science of the heart that could change everything we know about health and our interconnected nature. Coherence is a state of balance between heart, mind, and emotions, creating a favorable cascade of neural, hormonal, and biochemical events that benefit the entire body. But this phenomenon not only benefits us personally, it affects everything around us, emitting an electromagnetic field that can be measured up to 3 feet outside of the body. When you are in coherence, your heart resonates at the same frequency as the Earth's magnetic field. This frequency positively affects everything around you. When a group of people are in coherence together, this effect is magnified. Could communities synchronized in coherence lower violence, accelerate cooperation, and global harmony? This is the purpose of the Global Coherence Pulse. If we can measure the impact of thousands of people in coherence at the same time, it could lead to a breakthrough in understanding the full potential of the human heart. All you need to participate is your presence and your heart. To take it to the next level, join the research study by downloading the app and getting an HRV monitor to measure your personal coherence. The world needs it more than ever before. Each human heart is unique and magnificent by itself. But imagine what could be possible when we unify.
Welcome everyone to day 6 of this special series of daily global coherence pulses within World Unity Week. And today is in honor of climate. And I want to thank you all for joining us for this special opportunity to come together and to practice coherence and to pulse the field with this loving presence. And I know Julie and I were talking about this morning that this pulse session really does provide a special blessing, special space within World Unity Week. So thank you for adding your heart. And we start each one of these pulses with a global silent minute, which I'll turn over to Dot.
Thank you, Teresa. It is a joy to dedicate this Global Silent Minute to climate. Climate is based on the integrity of all parts of the whole. Climate offers a conscious, relational code, as it is a field holding all the foundations of life: earth, water, fire, air. And climate offers a sacred, life-giving relationship wherein the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Nothing is separate. So today we gently ask the question: how will we restore and regenerate, living in right relationship with our foundation of life, climate? The Global Silent Minute was inspired by the original Big Ben Silent Minute. That silent minute at 9 p.m. daily helped to end World War II. In these times of crises, we offer our daily 9 p.m. GMT Global Silent Minute to bring an end to all war, to bring peace to humankind, and all life as we call for global cooperation, peace, and freedom. And during World Unity Week, as we come home together and embark on a 99-day journey of peace through unity towards a thriving world for all of life, we dedicate the Global Silent Minute to the foundations of life. The power of silence is greater than we know. It is in silence that we experience unity. We presence now in the one heart and experience the resonance of silence as action in sacred unity on behalf of climate. Let us prepare to enter the silence. With a deep breath, we activate the spirit of peace in our own hearts. And we unite our fiery hearts across distance. Now we invite all those on the other side of the veil to join us. When you hear the Tibetan singing bowl, we have entered 1 minute of silence as action in sacred peace through unity for climate.
I love that we start with that moment of silence and then move into a little music before we start to bring our voices in. And I want to invite Julie and Gary to add their spotlights, and Jennifer. Great. So part of our format is this lovely group of co-creators, Dot and Julie and Gary and myself have been coming together and reflecting on these foundational themes. And today is climate. And we also today invited Jennifer Hill to join us, who is one of our teammates in the Global Coherence Pulse core team. And she is going to be guiding our meditation today. So welcome. Thank you, Jennifer, for coming with us today. And as we start this conversation on climate, I thought maybe we would bring up what climate had to say today in the listening field, which is one of the offerings. So Kaylin, if you could bring up here we go. Maybe we spotlight this for everyone. We'll all have to come back on for the spotlight. Let's see. There we go. So this is what climate had to say. Julie, maybe you read it because I'm not sure about my audio. Would you read that for us?
Sure. Dear climate, how do we restore right relationship with you? It's an inside job. What you do for yourself, you do for me. What can I give you? My vow to live in balance and harmony with reverence and gratitude for all life. And Teresa, while I'm here, I'm just going to expand on that to pull the threads from this morning. Dot gave us a clue of some really important pieces that we can weave through our hour and pulse today. And that being that reverence, that relationship. And eco-governance spoke of climate as being the sacred relationship of all things. And as we really live with integrity in that sacred relationship with all things, it creates the conditions for life to birth itself, to flourish, and to evolve. And it was so beautiful to hear that being the right relationship with all things and being in that sacred relationship. The other piece I just want to presence for us entering this hour is that climate is an individual personal climate, our cultural climate, and our planetary climate. So when we're thinking of sacred relationship, it goes inward into the micro and then goes out into the greater. And I left that session with a question I wrote really big on a piece of paper as I was leaving is, where am I out of integrity? Where am I living out of integrity? It was just a really poignant focal point for us all to look at that inner climate as well as outer. And Jennifer, I think you want to add something to that.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here, Julie. It's such a pleasure to be with you and with each and every one of you, Teresa and Gary and Dot, and all of you out there. We were speaking offline, and when we saw what climate had to say to us from the insights this morning, it made me reflect on something that Deepak Chopra had shared in an interview we did last year. Deepak said in the interview that if enough of us healed the microbiome in our guts, we would heal the whole world. And just as Julie was so beautifully and eloquently putting, and Dot shared as well, we are really a microcosm for the macrocosm. And the more that Teresa and I and a few others, we facilitated a pulse a few months ago in February called Healing from the Inside Out. If we spent as much time working on what we're externally doing, working on what we're internally doing, that would shift the climate externally, and it would also shift our internal climate. I think of it, I don't know if anybody else has ever had this experience, but sometimes I look outside, and if I'm feeling kind of sad and gray, all of a sudden I look out in the clouds, there's clouds and rain coming down. And if I'm feeling bright and sunny, the sun is out. And I'm not saying it's correlative in that sort of a 1-to-1 ratio, though we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. And the more that we heal ourselves, the greater healing occurs for the whole world and each of us as a part of that world.
Dot, do you want to add to that from this morning? I loved all that's been coming through around climate. It really opened my eyes to a whole different way to think about it.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa, and thank you for those sharings, Jennifer and Julie. You know, listening to Shelley and the other panelists on the plenary this morning about climate really touched me. And Julie, when you just spoke and you even made the hand motion, it's like they spoke about climate as a womb, a field that holds all the foundations of life. And all three of them said we're already living in a unity system, that we are just realizing that as humanity. Uh, and Daniel Wall, who talks about regeneration brilliantly, said our issue is not climate. It's not climate change. That's the feedback to our core issue, which is actually our separative attitude, the illusion of separation that we think we can participate separate from being in life, in climate, which is already one unity system. That has been with me all day.
So beautiful. Gary.
Yeah, I too had not been in the listening fire this morning, but I'm loving I love when I've been tilted into another awareness, like, what? Climate is, what is it? It's, then suddenly I realize it's the sum total of these relationships, right? And then when you combine it with this separative attitude that Dot just talked about as being the causative of the climate that we've experienced on the planet, it makes so much sense that people's tendency would feel victimized by the climate change that ironically came from our participation in co-creating it from the separative place. So I suddenly am seeing climate as such a different experience. I'm just loving in the way that the field invites me into feeling that I'm an inherent part, intrinsic part of it. Climate ends up being, I have something to say about the way the parts relate to one another as a sum of the whole. And that's a whole other invitation into what life could mean in integrity. And I'm really stunned at what a paradigm shift that definition change can be. So really thank you all for helping me be stunned and kind of tilt. I love that. I love being off balance so I can ask the questions that can bring me into more ownership for the part that I play in this sum that's greater than the sum, right? Love it.
I think that's part of the magic that's been unfolding from all these different events, focusing on the same thing every day and opening up what we actually mean by that and how we're connected to it and what our part is in it. And I've been hearing almost every session I've been on over and over again, gosh, it all comes down to our own shift of consciousness, to a unified experience of being, and that we need to come into coherence with that. So again, what we're doing here is so essential. This is our moment. And we're going to go right into having a meditation. Jennifer's going to guide us into a unifying meditation, because that's really coming into coherence inside of ourselves is the contribution that we can make to the climate, to this being. And following that meditation with just a bit of spaciousness, Gary is going to be playing a piece that he's been wanting to launch, and it's on courage. And I'm going to let him describe it for a minute. And it seemed to me the perfect day for it, because we need to have our courage, a new kind of courage, a real deep courage that lives inside of us in order for us to navigate these times and to do the part that's ours to do, which is come home inside of ourself and take action from here. So, Gary, if you'll just describe that a little bit, then we don't need to take a break from the meditation. We can go right into it, and then we'll
Great.
come back on the other side and reflect.
Well, I had the great honor and privilege to be able to share this world premiere of this track, which I call the genre that's been discovered called in the Graceful Passages work that Michael and Doris Stillwater and I did. It's called Alchemical Wisdom, because my belief is it isn't truly wisdom if it's not activating all parts of our intelligences, our body, our heart, our mind, our soul. Otherwise, it's basically fragmented knowledge. But wisdom, right? So my invitation is, we have an image that's going to show that's meant to drop into pure listening. And I invite you to corral all parts of you, body, mind, heart, and soul, so that as you listen to Lynn Twist talk about courage, she is representing all of us, calling forth our inherent courage within us in a unified way. So invite you to really, really listen and let the cells in your interstitial tissues and your bodies activate your access to your innate courage. And I invite that to happen today. And thank you again, Teresa, for giving me the opportunity to share this second premiere of what I've been working really hard on for the last couple of months. And I hope you all enjoy it.
Thank you. So Jennifer, I'm going to place us all in your loving arms to guide us into a unified, coherent experience together.
Thank you, Teresa. And so now I invite you to go within. You can shut your eyes if you're in a place where you can comfortably do so. If it feels right, maybe just see. If you want to place your right hand on your heart, you could even place your left hand on your womb. Begin to notice the breath. Allowing that beautiful, deep, conscious, loving breath. Feeling it enter and fill up your heart. As we breathe out, every breath we breathe out, expanding our capacity for love, our capacity for oneness, and our capacity for grace. Imagine that you have a beautiful waterfall of white light. That waterfall of white light is flowing down the backside of your crown chakra, down the backside of your third eye, feeling these little sparks of light light up the backside of your throat chakra, feeling it touch your heart chakra, and that waterfall of light just pouring down the back of your solar plexus, and your sacral chakra, and finally your root chakra. As we continue heart-focused, conscious, loving breaths, finding whatever rhythm is comfortable for you, I invite you to imagine that you have beautiful roots. And these golden roots and tendrils are going down from the sides of your hips, and the base of your tailbone. And these tendrils of golden light, these roots filled with your light and your love, reach down, 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 down to Mother Earth, connecting with all that is, all of Mother Gaia, the plants, the animals, trees, the other human beings. Imagine reaching your golden roots out, allowing those beautiful roots, just like the mycelium network that supports trees, to reach out as we embrace and allow these roots to cover the entire world, radiating this love from our roots to the other roots, covering the entire planet with radiance. As we do this, keeping our connectedness to Mother Gaia, connectedness to the earth and to one another, focus our attention in the area of our hearts, consciously with every breath, allowing our hearts to be filled with the regenerative emotion. Perhaps it's love, or appreciation, or kindness. Maybe if today you're struggling and today has been a tough day for you, allow yourself just to breathe in neutral or calm with your heart. Allowing these deep, conscious, loving breaths to flow in and out with every breath, enhancing that regenerative emotion. Next inhale, just imagine holding that regenerative emotion for a moment in your heart. And lovingly releasing it on the next out breath. As we allow another deep, conscious, loving breath, I invite you to hold an image. Maybe it's a place or person. Perhaps it's an animal that you love. And as you imagine that breath flowing in and out, right through the center of your heart, holding that image of that person or place or pet, just allowing that love that you feel for that place or that person, allowing that to fill up your heart to overflowing. And then releasing it. Allowing a beautiful, deep, conscious, loving breath. This time, allowing it come in right through your heart. And this time, I invite you to pulse this love. Hold this love in your heart, and with every in-breath, increase the love. And with every exhale, imagine pulsing that love. Pulse that love to whatever room you're in, wherever you may be seated or lying. Allow that love to radiate out from your heart, expanding beyond the room, beyond the house, wherever you are, to whatever city you're in. Expanding it to the country or state that you're in. With every inhalation, feeling more of this love as our own capacity for love grows, as we radiate more of this love. Next inhalation, allow more love. We allow our vessel, our capacity for love and light to increase tenfold more than it ever has. Our capacity for oneness, for unity. And on the exhale, I invite you to bathe the entire world in this love and increase the capacity that you have for this love and light. Envision the whole world surrounded in a beautiful golden white light, filled with the love that you have in your heart and that you hold with you everywhere you go in every moment of every day. Now as we exhale, we allow ourselves to come back to the country we're in. Back to the city that we're in. Back to the room or wherever we may be seated or lying. And if your hand is not already on your heart, I invite you to put it there. And to whisper, I love you. I love you. Whisper it once for yourself. And whisper it once for the world and feel that love. Because as we increase our love for ourselves, we increase our capacity to love one another and to love every creature and every being, and even the challenging moments that we sometimes are faced with. And that we now know ourselves as someone who has the capacity for a love that is so strong, so wide, so expansive, that it could cover the whole world or the whole universe if you chose. And that you allow yourself to honor this power, this beauty and grace and strength that you may have forgotten that you had. And that you allow yourself to radiate this love wherever you may go. Allowing one more deep, conscious, loving breath in right through the center of our hearts. And releasing it out and allowing that golden trunk of trees, never separated, always together, but that trunk, that roots come back to draw all of ourselves back to ourselves. To come back into this moment and to open our eyes when we are ready. Allow a moment of silence before we come back together. Namaste. Thank you.
We're just going to stay in this state and take a nice long pause as we move into the transmission of courage.
In times of the greatest adversity, the greatest challenge, the greatest fear, the greatest horror, it's possible to find the greatest human being you've ever been. It comes when we call for it, because it's part of who we are. And when we're willing to call for it, it matches the mountain that's in front of us every time. In my life, I've known courage. I've known it was there, and I've known when it's gone. It's gone when we feel discouraged. It's gone when we don't know the way through, when we feel like retreating, when sadness or grief or overwhelm or fear seems to loom larger than anything in the whole wide world. But our heart can hold all of that and still exhibit courage, because courage comes from the heart. Courage is the most bold and powerful expression of the heart. Courage is the heart at its finest, leading us into realms of being that we didn't know existed. We all have it, and we all express it. Because it's who we are, and it's who you are right now. In the face of anything, just call for it, and it'll be there. It happened to me. I was in New York, and my son was deathly ill. He was almost gone. His breathing was labored. His heartbeat was sketchy. There were doctors around him, but all of them were interns. No one seemed to be in charge. He was getting weaker and weaker. His liver collapsed, and then his lungs. And I looked in his eyes, and he looked at me, asking me with those eyes to stop what was happening to him. The fear was still there. My heart was pounding. My hands were sweaty. It was still chaotic. I didn't know who to talk to or what to say. But I felt a kind of power that was beyond anything I've ever known. The will of a mother to have her son live became who I was. The strength in my body was like that of a superwoman. I felt a divine energy flood through my fingers as I touched his hand. And through my eyes as I looked into his. I put my head on his heart. I could hear it was still beating. And I pulled for that to recover. In the case of the courage I exhibited in the crisis with my son, I know he fought with every cell of his body to make it across the line to life. I know there were medical people who did miraculous things. But I also know that the courage that came from my heart had an intensity and a power that I had never known before. When I look back on that time, I realize that courage is always there, waiting to be used. When we're afraid, courage embraces that fear. It holds that fear in a container that's greater and deeper and more powerful, because it puts its arms around it and lifts it up as an offering. Now I know that no matter what happens to me, and no matter what happens to you, if you're willing to call on your heart to bring you the courage that you need to get through it, it will always be there. And it's infinite, it's eternal, and its strength is unbounded. Nothing is greater than the courage to live life, the courage to save life, the courage to contribute to life, and the courage to make a difference. My wish for you is that you find the courage that you need, no matter how difficult, no matter how crushing. Know that you can never be crushed. You can never be brutalized. Cruelty can never really touch the heart of who you are. You have the courage to meet that adversity and pull yourself through. Who you are is a being that's filled with light, that's filled with kindness, that's filled with strength, that's filled with love, and that is made of courage. Each of us has it. Call on it, and it'll be there. Because it's the heart of who you are.
Let us just take this beautiful feeling that we have been generating through the meditation and through this call to this greater courage, and just pulse that across the planet and trust that it goes exactly where it's needed. And open up to a greater partnership with climate, internally and externally. And know what we feed the field is what influences our internal and external climate. And we draw all of this up and we draw it into our own sweet heart to nourish and bless and cleanse and uplift the current, the climate inside of us. Because over and over again, every message keeps leading us that it starts right here with each of us. There is no greater purpose. So let's all bring ourselves back on camera. Thank you all for being with us in this journey. And Jennifer, I love your guiding us in a unitive experience. Always so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teresa.
Whoops. We'll all have to add ourselves again. Here we go.
All good.
Beautiful. And we have about 5 minutes just to share some reflections, and please do so in the chat about climate. If there was something that you were inspired by with this larger definition, and also just around this beautiful piece on courage. I think we're going to have to summon some courage to face into what we're facing, and it is available for us right in our hearts when we need it most. Thank you, Gary, for that.
All right. Well, I have to tell you, listening, I even identifying. Well, yeah. identifying that courage was the medicine I required in order for me to make my next evolutionary step away from the ancestral neuronal pathways that have been passed down for generations. That I needed that lift from, in my case, someone I love and respect as a way to create community. Lynn Twist is a master. And so just finding this track in my archive was almost like finding an artifact that was like, oh, so setting it to music was a personal medicine journey into infusing the faith needed to take the step away from all that you know in your, as Neil Rogan would call our personality, to stand for the beauty and the power of peace and justice and freedom and sustainability, and to say, my dad fought Nazi Germany. What's my stand now? And how can I awaken the courage to love this earth so much that I steep in it for 8 minutes so that I can remember it's really true, because I can feel how I vibrate to it. And every time I listen to this, I feel like we all need to allow 8 minutes of infusing our courage wherever it's needed, right? So I just feel so proud and grateful to have this be the place that I feel like I'm really giving it its air to serve. And thank you for the opportunity to do that. And I just love the courage it brings me to even speak like this right now with you. Thank you.
Yes, if I may be so bold, Gary, to share something, a friend of mine recently, I'm neurodivergent. If people don't know what that means, it means I'm on the spectrum. And I only found that out later in life. And so one of my dear friends who's on the spectrum as well, being on the spectrum, you try to fit in, you try to be normal like other people, right? And so I kind of fell into being perfect and trying to get everything perfect and normal. And one of my dear friends who's on the spectrum has recently started a TikTok channel and just sharing her fears and her hopes and dreams. And she said, Jen, the next step for all of us as human beings is just to have the courage to be ourselves and to stop trying to be perfect and get it right and fit in. And I think that's the old model. I think that's the old model, whether you're neurotypical, neurodivergent, whatever, however we identify ourselves. Those are all just labels. But the idea is that we don't have to be perfect anymore. We get to be us. And I think that's what this climate of emerging as the fullness of who we are without having to put the mask on anymore.
Beautifully articulated. Wow, Jennifer, what a beautiful statement. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, agree, Gary. That was beautiful, Jennifer. And the music, Gary, beautiful. Opens our hearts. And where I land in this is courage, courage, the age of the heart. It's the doctrine of the heart as we enter this new era together, as we
Wow.
take this journey, this 99-day journey together. It's beautiful. Thank you.
The age of the heart, the age of courage. That is so good, Dot.
Julie.
I'm just thinking ahead of, thank you for that example. Thank you, Gary, and the reflection. And Jennifer, when you were speaking, I was thinking about the courage that's coming up in the plenary later. We're going to go through Neil Donald Walsh in a plenary session, and then we're moving on, kind of giving away some previews of stay tuned. But we're going to talk about the Main Street Mystic and why it's so important for us to really fully come into these non-ordinary states of consciousness with courage right now on the planet, and talk about a book series that's bringing that in a lot of different voices here. So that's what was awakened in me is I am motivated to bring this courage through to that plenary tonight and really
Make the plug, Julie, make the plug and tell us exactly when and where so we can find it.
Well,
Maybe
right here.
Kaylin can bring up the slide because I asked
Okay.
him to put a slide up. So let's do that right now. I'm just going to
Okay,
spotlight it. So
there we go.
Nope, sorry,
So-
Kaylin, you'll need to do it again.
Yeah, Kaylin, here you are. So at 6 tonight, there's Neil Donald Walsh, C. Farrell, Timothy Noah talking about global spiritual climate. And I love this because here, that's the spiritual climate. I don't know what they're intending to speak, but I imagine it's a bridge between what we're talking about right now with the courage and then coming into that full modern day mysticism. So 6 o'clock, there's the first plenary. 7 o'clock is a plenary with the authors, several of the authors of the Common Sentience series with Ariel Patricia and the Sacred Stories. And we're going to bring in this idea of modern day mysticism as the path to peace. And coming into that again, Jennifer, yes, the courage to be fully who we are, unapologetically, speak from that place that we've put in a closet through the illusion of separation for so many centuries, right? And allow the unitive consciousness and the new science that's showing us the true nature of reality to be who we live into being here. And when we come into that, it does change climate, sacred relationship to all things. And so it's delightful how all these synapses are connecting inside of me right now as I listen to what you both shared. So thank you. Let's all carry our courage into the rest of this evening. It's a beautiful program being woven together for us today.
Our goodbyes for the pulse, but invite you all to stay. If Dot, if you'll come on. There we go. And Julie and Jennifer. And let's just all send our love to Gary and Jennifer and Dot and everyone. We keep canceling out the spotlights.
Sorry, I forgot. Oh my God.
That's okay. Yeah. I want to, because Ben has a panel coming up, I want to make sure that he has plenty of time to set up for the panel. So if you're on with us right now, please stay in the room and stay in this conversation and add your love. And if you do need to leave, just pulse the field wherever you go with this feeling that you're holding in your heart right now. So thank you. And Ben, I'm going to add you to our little field here. There we go.
You get to decide. Kaylin's instructed to play the short transformance, but if you'd rather not because of time, you let Kaylin know. And greetings, my friend Ben.
Hi, everybody. That was beautiful. Let's see if our guests are here. Otherwise, let's play the transformance, and then we'll finish on that, Kaylin.
Okay.
All right.
And
Blessings,
blessing all of you. Fabulous.
Thank you for having me.
Let's be quiet for a moment and drop out of our minds and into our hearts. Let's listen to the songs, the melodies, the tunes that our hearts play, winging their way from each one of us to each other of us. Connecting us. Bringing us together. Bringing us into harmony with each other. Bringing us into love.